Hey YouTube, Sky the MA here. I've had this video on my mind for a while. Um, this is a life update. What's going on in life, where I want to go, where I want to be, where I'm currently at. Um, I recorded a video like this last week, but never got around to uploading it because I don't know what's going on, but I get the idea for a video and I scrap it, like even after recording. Um, it is currently 10 p.m. at time of recording. I'm tired. I'm exhausted mentally and physically. Um, Let me give a little background about who I am in case you don't know. My name is Sky. I'm a nationally certified medical assistant through the American Association of Medical Assistants. I've been an MA for 2 years at this point. And I'm stuck on where I want to go in life. I'm 25. I don't know if I want to continue my career in the medical field and work up to my dreams of being a doctor and helping the trans community, or if I want to abandon the medical field and become a pilot. If you follow my gaming channel or you follow my gaming Twitch channel, you'll notice a lot of flight sim content with the release of Flight Sim 2020 on PC, on Xbox. When I was right the day after my 21st birthday, I went to a local airport. I got an introductory flight as a present from my dad, and it's come down to that. I wouldn't say that's really where I fell in love with flying. That would be when I took my first flight on airline. I was going down to California on a vacation when I was younger. That's when I really fell in love with flying, and even going the following year to the East Coast. And then really again at 21. No. When I was 21. When I was 20. Just a year before, going to see my dad on the East Coast. Flying there and back. I loved it. Here's a little clip of actually coming into land. And you'll probably see pictures of like when I did my intro flight 4 years ago. That's really when I fell in love with flying, being behind the being in the cockpit of a 172, getting a feel for the air, watching these airliners take off and taxi, and being at a semi-busy airport. The airport I was at, I believe, is a Class Charlie airspace, or a Class Delta. Post-production, me look it up. But, there's... I don't know how to describe it. I know back when I was 20, it was, hey, flying into Charleston, it was, for those who have never flown into Charleston, South Carolina, it is a 3-in-1 airport. You have the Air Force Base, or Joint Base, you have Boeing, and you have the actual passenger terminal. So coming into land and taxiing to take off, you could just see C-17s lined up. It was amazing. Flying out of Charleston, the runway we took off of, it was the one we landed on a couple months back. And it flies right over Boeing. And as we were flying up and flying over, or taking off actually, I looked down and I saw 3 of the Dreamliners. And that's when it's like, okay, I want to become a pilot. I want to work at Boeing and I want to be a test pilot for them. No problem. Then it happened. I applied to Boeing. I got in. I was a custodian. I kind of loved it, especially working swing shift because I was off after midnight. And I am not a morning person. Don't ask me why I ever switched to days because I still, to this day, have no idea. I loved it because where they had me at, the building is right at the end of a runway. So I loved it because I could watch planes come in and land. We had a building across the street from the airport, where the small runway was. So I could I could hear the small planes take off from there. It was great. I loved it. Eventually, I think it was like not even after 6 months of being there. I think I'd been there 4 months. My manager walks up to me and goes, "Hey, we got your transfer request to you first shift. Do you want to take it?" First shift is 6 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Swing shift is 4 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. I love swing shift. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. So I looked at my manager and I'm like, let me think about it. And he's like, okay, let me know by the end of the day. Not a problem. I spent a good chunk of that day thinking over it. And at the end, I'm like, hey, I want to transfer. Because that way I got my afternoons back. I could hang out with my friends. I could schedule doctor's appointments for after work. Great. And it was great. I transferred, I think at the end of June that year. Like a week or so after my 4-month mark at Boeing. And I went to our day shift team, which is only one team to cover the entire site. So not only the factory and everything inside, so the factory, the delivery center, our modification center, and all that. It was one team. Fully staffed. We had like 22 people, I think. And a majority of them just stayed in the factory. And it was great. We had a great manager. I got along well with him. Had no issues. Then I think it was around my 6-month mark. We got a new manager. I went on light duty September, October. And that put a target on my back with management. Because I had my wrist, which has me out again. And I had my back. I didn't know if they were work related or not. So yeah, I went on light duty for almost 6 months. And it came down to either I get off my restrictions or I get medically let go. I didn't want to be let go medically. It was my dream to work there. So I get off my restrictions. And that's when management really started going after that target. And that's when it became apparent that I was a target. And that management was targeting me. Ultimately, it led up to me being fired for bullshit reasons. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it. After that, it's like, what do I want to do? I can't go back to Boeing right now. I went right to my union. I'm like, hey, here's what happened. What can be done, and what should I do right now? They told me, go home. We'll fight to help you try and get your job back. And here's what you should do. Because I lost my health insurance at the end of that month with Boeing. So I went home, got everything done I needed to, went on unemployment. And then it's like, what do I want to do? Now, my mom was a medical assistant around the same time I was finishing up high school. And hearing what she got to do, it's like, that sounds awesome. At the same time, I'm like, eh. Because there are some things I wasn't comfortable with at the time. Being trans, and at this point, I'm giving myself weekly injections. Like, at the time, like, I don't care much for needles. I don't like looking when they draw blood or anything like that. Well, lo and behold, I go back to school and become a medical assistant. And you can see, I still have those videos up. You can take a look at those videos. In fact, that's actually when I started this channel. So, I went back to school and became a medical assistant. Great, no problem. I struggled a little bit, but, it was a fast-paced certificate program. So every 6 weeks, we were doing something new. And it's a 9-month program. 8 months of schooling, 1 month of clinical work. Those first 6 weeks, you're learning about anatomy and physiology, you're learning study skills, math, how they teach you how a computer works, how to use Word and things like that. I looked at my mom because I grew up with a father in IT. So computer stuff, yeah, I'm not worried. I looked at my mom and be like, and this is where I get a little cocky. I'm like, I'd be surprised if I do not pass this class. Like, I would drop out. Yeah, I passed that class. No problem. No issues. So it's 5 weeks of all that. And then that final week, you're going over HIPAA, CPR and first aid. Where I live, it's required for your state certification that you have at least 7 hours of AIDS and HIV training. You're going over a lot of the shit that's required for your certificate at this point. So we get done with those first 6 weeks, and in my class, we had 5 MA students and 7 vet assistant students. So the vet assistants went off to do their own thing. We went off and did front office work for the next 6 weeks. And that's where I really excelled. I will say, I was the only one in my class that enjoyed billing and coding. I love medical coding. So we get done with those 6 weeks, and we go on to our final 18. So it's like a 32-week program, I think, give or take. 32 weeks of classroom learning. And we go into our final 18 weeks, which is all back office. So you're learning injections, blood draws, vitals. You're learning how to basically room and do the important clinical stuff before you get sent off to go practice in the field and build some experience. Back office is where I struggled the most. I failed my blood draw checkoffs 2 times. Barely passed on the 3rd. I failed injections twice. and I failed my sterile procedures because it was snowing at that time, and yeah, the roads being covered in snow and icy. I can't even get out of my front yard. What are you doing, cat? Bless you. That's my cat. So yeah, I missed like half of those 6 weeks because of it. And then we went over billing and coding again, get a refresher. Again, only one in my class that liked it. And a little story time on that. Our instructor said to have one of us go get a book, pick a student, bring the book back, and pick a student. And that student has to look up the code and what it links to. And so one of the girls sitting next to me, or at the table next to mine, gets up, goes to the next classroom over, gets the book, comes back, and sets it right on my desk. Because again, and they all know this, I'm the only one that likes coding. And so I had to look up the ICD-10 code for nephropathy. And I remember in class I called it neuropathy because I didn't see the PH for nephropathy. But yeah. So there's that. And then 5 weeks of clinicals. And that actually surprised me the most. I didn't mind in a primary care setting. And if you want more information, hold on. So, yeah, you can see those videos on my channel. It was like 2 minutes from, like a minute driving from where I live. So yay, I passed, I graduated. I stopped uploading. So here's what's been going on since then. I took my... Yeah, I did a video on like I like the end of it. It took me... I graduated in March of that year. It took me until the end of May to get my certification through the state because of the pandemic. In my very first job right after that, I'd been working at Lowe's with my now roommate. Same location and everything, while waiting to get my certification. So I worked at Lowe's for a bit. Once I got it, I left and started looking at, okay, what can I do as an MA? Where can I work? And I had been applying to local clinics, hospitals. I had my Indeed profile up. I think I had a profile on Monster up, and I was just applying left and right to wherever I could. And I told myself I was not going to do pediatric primary care. I do not care much for it. And a few other personal reasons why. So yeah. I ended up getting a contract job with my state's Department of Corrections, working in a prison as a contract MA. It was great. I didn't care much for it. They were training me to be the MA for telehealth visits for the inmates, so I was getting everything set up. And the inmates couldn't come back until I could see the doctor on the screen. And then we had the inmate come back. They had to sit on their hands. They couldn't touch anything, look at anything but the computer. And then when they were done, they were sent back up. Not a lot of fun. In our downtime, we were doing admin work, which I didn't really mind, but I wasn't utilizing my skills. Especially the ones I needed to. So I left there and went to Planned Parenthood. I stayed there for about 6 months. I left there because I relied heavily on the transportation benefit. Um, because trying to commute to Seattle and back daily, not a lot of fun. So I took the bus a lot. I think I only drove in like on average 1 or 2 times a week. Um, so yeah, my first manager left. I went to a major medical group after they cut our transportation benefits. So I applied to the medical group I currently work with or work for in a different department. And I've been there, I was there 7 months before I transferred. And again, it's that commute from where I live down to Seattle. Um, it was great. I loved the people I worked with. I loved my patients. I loved our doctors. It was great. Planned Parenthood, they treated me like shit. I was having flashbacks to Boeing with having a target on my back. I was getting overwhelmed very easily, especially when I was the only MA because our team lead had to call out occasionally, which I could understand. But yeah, not a lot of fun. And I felt bad leaving there too. I had put in a 4 week notice. The moment I got my start date for where I currently work, I put in a 4 week notice at Planned Parenthood. 2 weeks later, I left. It was a combination of being overwhelmed, understaffed, management not giving a shit. I had been in union steward training because we were union. And I was fed up with management and being understaffed at that time. So yeah, we found out our manager was leaving earlier that month, and then at the end of that month, I dropped the fact that I was leaving. And I'd been talking with our clinician or provider, whoever you want to call them, at the time, and they're like, I honestly, because I'd been thinking of just clocking out and never coming back again. And our provider is like, I honestly don't blame you if you do that. You have my support. So my manager came back to the nurse station where I was at, told me, hey, go to lunch. So I clocked out, grabbed my stuff, left my key to the building, or left my key to the clinic on the counter in the break room, left and never came back. Do I regret it? A little bit. Do I care? A tiny bit. Do I feel bad? Yeah, I do. I left them with no MA, a manager who didn't feel like doing shit because when she started at our clinic, and she'd been with the company for 20 plus years, I think, 15, 20, something like that. She told us, I can run patients, I can do blood draws. Great. You can help out when we're understaffed. Nope. She helped out in the lab and she helped out with blood draws. That was it. That was all she did. Otherwise, she stayed up front. I got a little pissed off about that. And that's another reason why I left. But yeah, so now I'm with a different medical group. I'm in the MA flip pool. I'm currently on a leave of absence for my wrist. And yeah. And I'm trying to figure out if I want to go on and continue and get my LPN and work on becoming a doctor, or if I should just abandon everything and go back and become a pilot. I'm sorry for the mess in the background. Yeah. But anyways, that's kind of like a life update video. Um, I'll know more probably in the next few days after this uploaded where my career path will take me. But thank you guys for watching. It means a lot to me. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. Feel free to hit that subscribe button. I want to upload more. I don't know at the moment. I don't know the future of the channel. But yeah. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all later. Peace out.